Hi, my name is Ben Jarrell with the Roadway Design Office, and I'll be presenting today on FDM 214, the new driveway chapter. As you may know, the FDM was a huge effort last year, and we didn't really have time to get to all of the chapters we wanted to develop for the FDM. And this was the case for chapter 214, but we were able to get it ready for the 2019 FDM. And we began by putting together a task team late last year. We ended up with a pretty diverse team from 4 different offices to develop and organize the new chapter. And our first meeting was at the end of January. Our team consisted of 8 original members. I was the lead on this task team, but there were two other members from the Roadway Design Office, including Mary Jane from Criteria and Durwood from Standard Plans. Gary and Gina represented the Systems Implementation Office, and Gary was one of the last authors of the FDOT Driveway Information Guide in Central Office. So we wanted to capture as much of his knowledge as we could before he retired in the spring. We also had Alan from Traffic Engineering and Operations, Tim from Maintenance, and Jim, a consultant. Now Jim was kind of our historian with over 35 years of engineering experience with FDOT, and he worked in Central Office for many years and as a subcommittee member on the AASHTO Green Book. We had 2 main sources for developing this chapter other than the task team, including the old Driveway Information Guide and the standard Plans Index 515. We started with the Driveway Information Guide, which was about 94 pages in length, but you'll be happy to know that we ended up with a much smaller chapter for the FDM. It's about 24 pages long, and it took several meetings to decide what should be included in this chapter. We considered 3 different options initially. One that was really an all-inclusive chapter that would cover everything you need to know for driveways from A to Z. And then the other extreme was to provide just criteria. We ended up somewhere in the middle, but closer to the criteria option, which provides mostly criteria with a little bit of guidance. And as part of our efforts to move design-related information from the standard plans to the FDM, the criteria and many of the figures and tables in this chapter, well, they came from the standard plans, the old Index 515. So this chapter is mostly criteria with some guidance for context classifications, and it refers to the new standard plans and to the new access management guide, the new FDOT Access Management Guidebook for additional guidance and information. Well, you might be wondering, what is this new FDOT Access Management Guidebook? Well, the new Access Management Guidebook combines and updates the old Driveway Information Guide and the Median Handbook. And this should be available in the near future, hopefully by the end of this year. The new Standard Plans Index 522003 is part of the old Index 515, and it has the driveway application details from the old index, like the one shown here on the right of the screen. A description of each application from the general to adverse is now provided in the FDM in this new chapter. So the chapter is divided up into 8 main sections. And the first one, the general section, it covers what is contained in the chapter, and it defines the terms the term driveway and related terms such as connection and turnout. And it includes two subsections for driveway terminology and evaluation of existing driveways. The flared and radial return design section gives designers direction on when each driveway type is appropriate. Whether you want to have a flared driveway or a radial return, it goes through and talks about when to choose which one. And then we have two sections for driveway geometry. One is for horizontal and one for vertical. And really the horizontal section, most of this criteria and tables and figures, they all came from the first sheet of the old Index 515. And it also has subsections for each of the driveway elements that are covered in that first sheet, the table on the first sheet of the old index, which I'll get into a little bit more detail in a few minutes. And then we had the vertical geometry section, which takes the last sheet of the old index, sheet 7, and brings those figures, tables, and notes over into this new chapter. And then we have the right turn lane section. It discusses the value in safety and operations in right turn lanes for driveways, and when they should be considered. But a lot of the criteria, it refers to the criteria over in FDM 212 for turn lane dimensions. And then the sight distance at driveways, this refers to the FDM 212 and 210 for criteria. But there's something else I wanted to tell you about for this chapter, which is new, and I'll get into that later as well. And the pedestrian accommodations for driveways contains crossing requirements and refers to FDM 222, which is our pedestrian chapter, and appropriate standard plans for additional requirements. And then last but not least, we have the permitting section, which provides direction on permits and has a link to the one-stop permitting website. Now this figure is in the general section, and it may look familiar to you. It is a slightly modified version of the one from the old standard plans, and we added a little bit of color to improve it, to make it a little more aesthetically pleasing. And there are two new variables here as well. We added an I for channelized islands, and we added an S for driveway traffic separators or medians. Now this table was added here to help you to determine when to use a flared driveway versus a radial return driveway. We broke it down into its simplest form, and the table consists of the elements of the roadway that you should be concerned about, whether it's a curved roadway or a flush shoulder roadway. And then also you base your determination on the connection category. So the connection categories, this is nothing new. It's from the old Florida Administrative Code, Rule 1496. Now, used to we had volumes. If you remember the old table from the index, it had volumes and the traffic volumes for each driveway, each connection. But these connection categories really include those types of volumes. So here is what is in the connection categories. This was from the old Florida Administrative Code. A through G are defined in that code. But for our purposes, for this chapter, we're only concerned about the A through D. Anything above that, the higher volumes of driveways, would be considered not a driveway, but designed as an intersection, which are covered in FDM 212. But A through D, that's what we're concerned about with this chapter. This table is from the old 515 index, and it's been rearranged and updated to fit onto this page and be more consistent with the other FDM tables. But it's mostly the same, same as the old table that we had in the index. We did add a new row to the bottom there for corner clearance and driveway spacing with a reference to the tables in FDM 201. We also replaced divisional islands and driveway with driveway traffic separators and medians, and replaced the slash with an NA for connection category A. We replaced the diagonal line that was in the old table with a range of 60 to 90 degrees for angled driveways on connection category A. But this angle may be reduced if you need to, if you find it appropriate for your application, but it has to be approved by the local operations and maintenance office to do so. And you might find the need to reduce this angle when it's approaching, when you have a driveway that is for entry off of the roadway that can be a little bit, have a steeper angle, a sharper angle there, less than 60 degrees. It's more of an issue when you're trying to get onto the main roadway, where you'd want to be closer to 90-degree angle there so that the driver can see down the road. It becomes more of a sight distance issue. But when they're getting off of the road, you can have a sharper angle there typically, and it's less of an issue. But we have a way to do that covered in Note 4. And then criteria for channelization islands is provided as it's shown there in Note 5 in FDM 212. So the driveway horizontal geometry section is broken up into six main sections, and these are all the elements that are from the table we discussed earlier. All these come from the elements in that table, from radius all the way down to driveway location. And these sections just go into further detail than the table did before. Something new that we did add, we have two subsections for driveway location. The interchange areas. First one. Now this is not new. This is from the Florida Administrative Code 1497, and it was added. It's also been added to FDM Table 201.3.2, and it just wasn't provided in the old FDM, but it was referred to. You could go and find this information in the Florida Administrative Code. But we thought it would be easier just to bring it over so that the guidance, the criteria would be right here in this chapter, so you wouldn't have to go and look for it. And then the roundabout section, this is brand new to the manual, and it really was, we thought we needed to add something here for roundabouts, for driveways at roundabouts, because we're putting a lot more roundabouts on our roadways now. And this gives you some guidance and direction on how to do that. For the driveway vertical geometry section, it's broken down basically into two main subsections. The driveway profile on curved roadways is the first subsection here, and then we have one for the driveway profiles on flush shoulder roadways. And then most of these tables, we'll go through them real quick, but most of these tables should look familiar to you. Most of the figures and tables, they're brought over from the old index. But we did add a little bit to help it explain some of the things that were in the have been brought over and that have been around for a while, but maybe we thought it would be useful, especially for newer designers. So this figure is brand new. We come up with a figure that would just compare the different applications for flared driveways. And now we still have the old details. All the details for these applications are provided in the standard plans, index 522003. It's about 2 pages worth of different figures and details, but we just wanted to kind of show you a comparison here so that you would really quickly say, oh, okay, I have plenty of right-of-way, so I can use a general driveway here. Oh well maybe I don't have as much room, so maybe I'll try to use a marginal or adverse driveway here. And the figure just kind of shows you, how they're different, how they vary a little bit, and you can go pick out the one that's most appropriate from the index. But also in this section, we talk about what things to consider. What may happen, how it could affect some of your vehicles, design vehicles, using these different types of driveways, and how they vary a little bit. So there should be a little bit more guidance here, and we just try to make it a little bit easier for the younger designers to choose which driveway to use. Now this curb roadway driveway profile is really the same as it has been always. We didn't change any criteria here. It's been updated a little bit, cleaned up a little bit, but it's pretty much the same as it was from the old index, the last sheet of the old index. And this table also is pretty much the same. The flush shoulder roadway design driveway profile, we didn't change it. It's really the same. It refers to the table now that's been moved over to the FDM, but the criterion all here is the same. Now this figure, if you'll notice, you might remember the stuff there on the left of this table. Now that was shown before in the old index, but the figures on the right of that table, now they weren't shown in the old index, but they were shown in other parts of the standard plans and also in the FDM. But we just brought all those into one location for your convenience. This figure we didn't change anything here. We just cleaned it up for the FDM, but all these values are the same as they were in the old index. So the last 4 main sections, most of these are just references to other parts of the FDM, other criteria that's already been around for a while. Nothing really new here. The site distance at driveways is something new I want to tell you about here, but I'll in just a second. But the permitting chapter I've already told you about. It really is. It talks a little bit about when you need permitting on your roadway, and then it sends you has a link to the one-stop permitting website. So this is something new for driveways, and you'll probably be pleased to hear about this. Before, we used to require intersection site distance for driveways. And now, when intersection site distance cannot be met for very low speeds, that means roadways with design speeds of less than 35 miles per hour, or equal to or less than 35 miles per hour, the roadways, for those roadways, you can provide the greatest site distance possible. So as close to intersection site distance as you can, but not less than the minimum stopping site distance values that are covered in FDM 210. So To sum it up, we just basically, this chapter consists mostly of criteria. It includes some guidance for context classification, and it refers to the new Access Management Guidebook and also the new standard plans. So thank you for watching this presentation, and please let us know if you have any questions.